Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scenes from a Podcast with your host, Pikiss-Chris.
And your co-host, Bastard Swordsman.
Today, we are going to be talking about our third movie, The Ice Storm by Ang Lee. But first, shooting the shit with a bunch of unrelated topics, because that's what you do on a podcast.
Well, recently I played a game called Lost Judgment on the PS4, and it's the sequel to the first game, which is just called Judgment, or in Japan it was known as Judge Eyes, which I think is a much better title. But it's basically a spin-off to the Yakuza video game series, which is just like an action game. But anyway, Lost Judgment was pretty good. I think I preferred the first game a little bit, but it's definitely better than some of the recent Yakuza games, like Yakuza 6, although that's 6 years old by now, but like that game kind of sucked. But yeah, the story's pretty good, the characters are pretty good, and the combat's pretty good. It's a good game, I think. I would give it an 8 out of 10.
You told me about that a while back. You basically said that it was a Yakuza game in all but name and characters, same fighting style and everything.
It basically is. Yakuza 7 introduced a different protagonist from the previous games, and it also was turn-based, whereas the other games are like action games. So obviously that was a huge departure gameplay-wise. And it's funny because now Yakuza proper feels like this weird spin-off, and it's like, experimenting and stuff. And Judge Eyes is like, feels like the main series now because it's like continuing to develop the combat of the original series. And yeah, because Yakuza 6 introduced a new engine which kind of sucked ass, and like Yakuza, the combat was like really janky and not very fun, but thankfully by now the Judge Eyes games fleshed it out a lot more, and it actually, feels like a video game that you'd want to play. So it kind of sucks because Yakuza 6 was supposed to be the big last finale for a series, like a big series character, like the big protagonist of the series, Kazuma Kiryu, but it kind of sucked. It was like this weird, like, janky mess of a game with a very mediocre story. But yeah, but thankfully the Judge Eyes games are pretty good. I haven't played Yakuza 7 yet, though, so I can't say how good that is.
I haven't played any Yakuza games, but I do remember seeing, like, one of the cutscenes from the original juxtaposed to the remastered HD version of it.
It's not even like a remaster, it's like a remake, but like, I say remake very loosely because they use the character models from like later engines, but they literally, for all the cutscenes, use the same exact animations. They don't change anything. They recycle a ton of content. They just like plaster the combat of the later engines over it, and it feels really weird because a big part of the Yakuza series is that each game takes place the same month and year that the games release, with very few exceptions. So with each game, you get to like see the characters and town and stuff grow and develop in real time. And it's like, you're growing up with the characters, and you're going on this journey with them. And for much of the series, at least Yakuza 1 to 5, the combat also got more complex with each game, and the main characters like learned new abilities that weren't in previous games, or there'd be funny story related reasons why characters wouldn't have a move in one game or why they forgot it and then why they'd be learning it in another game. And um yeah, the remakes kind of messed that up. So if you do play it, I would recommend starting like with the first game, which is on PS2. I mean, you could also emulate it pretty easily, but yeah, the first game is pretty good. It's not like perfect. Some people would call it janky, but the second game is a huge step above and it's really fun. The combat is awesome, the story's awesome. Yakuza 2 is probably my favorite.
Yeah. Oh, the state of games preservation sucks ass.
I mean, thankfully, this was like a couple of years ago, but I was able to buy new copies of the first and second game on the PS2, so that's nice. For like, I think the first game was like $20 and the second game was $40 or $30 or something like that. Yeah.
Well,
Hmm. Anything you've been playing or watching?
uh, so I've been getting back into the well, not the original because it's not the original, but the version I grew up with, the 2003 version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Uh, got back into that recently just because I don't know, I've been seeing a lot of TMNT related stuff on Netflix, and I thought, I wonder if I could like go back and watch that old thing, you know.
I like this show.
Yeah, like the show. You know, it's
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Go ninja, go ninja, go.
you know oh god. What was that, like Vanilla Ice who did that?
Yeah, it was
Oh,
Vanilla Ice.
yeah, the whitest fucking rapper to
He
ever.
was cool as ice.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Did you
But
know
yeah,
Vanilla Ice has his own movie?
wait, really?
Yeah, it's called Cool as Ice.
Is this like a documentary or is it like a
No,
narrative?
it's like a narrative feature
Oh,
film.
oh my fucking god. What's it about? Is it like a Michael Jackson style thing?
Um, no, it's like Vanilla Ice is this dude, and it's a romance film, and he also fights like some delinquents or something like that.
That sounds about right. That's what I'd
Yeah,
expect to see out of a Vanilla Ice movie.
it's from the very early '90s, I believe.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but it looks legendary.
Well, we may have to talk about that film sometime, but regardless, the
I
yeah, that
think, actually, I think I should probably introduce today's film,
no,
if that's all right.
I was just gonna say quickly that I still think the show TMNT still holds up today. So
Oh, sorry.
yeah, now you can introduce the show.
All right. Thank you. I will. So, today I recommended a film. It's The Ice Storm from 1997, directed by Ang Lee, who also did movies like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Life of Pi. Hulk from 2003. That's a notable one. And Brokeback Mountain. He did that, and
Wait,
also Gemini Man.
wait, he did Broback Mountain.
Brokeback Mountain. Yeah,
Oh my god,
he did that.
I didn't think that doesn't seem like an Ang Lee movie, but I guess he has a varied filmography. What do I know?
Yeah. Anyway, so basically, the ice storm is set during late November. which is also when we're recording this, and it follows this family, well, two families really, living in suburban Connecticut, and basically they're kind of dysfunctional and going through some stuff, and yeah, that's pretty much the film, and some stuff happens. Yeah, I had never seen this film before, but I'd been interested in it for a good while. So yeah, what did you think of the ice storm?
I liked it. I mean, I definitely felt like there were some themes and like plot threads that were more interesting than others because this isn't like a mainstream kind of film. I don't know what else to call it, where it's like it's focused on one single plot point that like goes throughout the whole thing. It's more like a bunch of subplots that all share a similar theme of the dysfunctional family. You know, it's
I mean, it's a relatively mainstream film because it's 20th Century Fox,
well, I
but
mean, mainstream by today's standards of
you know,
boobies and explosions and turn your brain off
yeah,
kind of thing.
um, yeah. There's not really a main character; it just focuses on a bunch of characters. Um, yeah, there's two families. There's the Hood family and the Carver family. Uh, yeah, the Hood family has Kevin Kline playing the dad, Joan Allen playing the mom, and the kids are a young Toby Maguire and Christina Ricci. And then the Carver family is Sigourney Weaver playing the mom.
Did you pronounce it Sigourney Weaver?
Well, wait, is it Sigourney or Sigourney?
I always thought it was pronounced Sigourney. That's
I
how
think
I
I
always
yeah,
heard it.
I think it is Sigourney.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's also Elijah Wood. There's some like yeah, some of the young actors in this went on to be in some big movies. Like obviously Elijah Wood was in The Lord of the Rings, and Tobey Maguire was in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. And it's actually kind of funny because in the first scene, he's reading Fantastic Four, and then only a few years later he'd be in a Marvel movie himself.
Yeah. That's why Sam Raimi chose him. It was all because of Ang Lee. It wasn't because of
Mm,
acting ability or anything like that.
well,
That's how he operates.
that's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
So yeah, this film is sort of it focuses on both the parents and the kids. So it's partially a coming of age film and also like just a family drama. Um, you know, since it's focusing on the families, and it's, one of those films focusing on sort of the deterioration of the nuclear family and suburban malaise and depression.
Yeah.
And that topic has been kind of played out by now, but I think in the late 90s, it wasn't like, well, there were a lot of films like this, but it wasn't like
It's all about the
played out.
execution.
Yeah, and I thought it was executed pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually a pretty good segue into that. Like, I did find this film sort of like, not all of it, but like certain parts of it were sort of like a slog to get through just because it's sort of like a theme and like a commentary that has been sort of played out. I found myself, I guess this is a spoiler warning, more interested in like
Yeah, spoilers for the ice storm,
it,
obviously.
more interested in the coming of age story of like the children of the families than I did of what was going on with the adults and like the cheating plot line. You know, I think I said
I
this
agree
last
with
I
that.
I think I said this last episode, but I don't think adultery is a particularly interesting like thing to explore in fiction. So it's like
No, Yeah, I agree that the kids were more interesting than the adults, but there's also definitely a lot of parallels between the two and how and relationships play big roles in their lives, and how like characters like uh Christina Ricci aren't really like, faithful to like one guy, and also Sigourney Weaver is like cheating on her husband, and Kevin Kline is cheating on his wife. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the most interesting thing about the adultery subplot is how it sort of informs like the coming of age exploring sexuality of the child characters, where it's like the daughter, uh I I don't know which.
The actress is Christina Ricci.
Yeah, Christina, her character sort of like parallels the behavior of her dad, where it's like she's in kind of a relationship with Elijah Wood, but she's sort of like coming on to like his little brother almost in a
Yeah,
way.
she's kind of a groomer.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, but it's clearly like behavior that like she learned from her dad, like watching the way he treats relationships, and that was like, I think it's indicative of how interesting the adultery plot line is that it's more interesting to see how the kids respond to it than like the, oh, my marriage is falling apart, because it's like, I don't give a shit about that.
It also, the parents are also very hypocritical because, like, Kevin Kline and Sigourney Weaver are both cheating, but at different points they both find Christina Ricci like, trying to do sexual stuff with the boys, and they both get like pissed off at her and say, like, your body's a temple, you should be more responsible, whatever. But like, they aren't being very responsible either.
Yeah, I do think there is some nice commentary on like that sort of nuclear family. I don't mean to get preachy, but like the nuclear family, like gender roles and like the kind of sexism that was still sort of latent in those household environments, despite supposedly being more modern or whatever, in that the dad finds his daughter with one of the boys, and he immediately like chews into her about it, despite the fact that again he's committing adultery. And then not a few scenes later, he finds out that his son is basically planning on going to like a girl's house himself, and he like encourages it. Like he's and I feel like that informs like what the decisions the daughter makes later, where she sort of doubles down on being sexual and on cheating on her boyfriend or whatever in later scenes. So
Pseudo boyfriend.
pseudo boyfriend, but like I felt that was nice characterization. It's more subtle than how most films would approach that topic.
Um, yeah. There's definitely a big theme of disillusionment. Uh, Also repression again, because when you try to like repress your children's like sexuality, they'll just want to like be more, rebellious towards their parents. And anyway, speaking of the disillusionment that I was talking about, like the film is about the disillusionment with the nuclear family, and also it takes place during the early 70s with Nixon and Watergate, and it kind of reflects disillusionment with American politics and stuff like that. Like, because the Watergate scandal was huge when it happened, and it was one of the biggest, like, cases of political corruption that were, like, widely known, and is still pretty much widely known today, I mean, as long as you took an American history class.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's also that weird scene where Christina Ricci wears the
Where's
fucking
the Nixon mask?
Nixon mask,
The Nixon
which
mask stays on during sex.
is so true. That was a weird scene. I don't know if I'm just reaching, but like possibly that could also mean uh like disillusionment surrounding sex and stuff, but I don't know. It's probably just a weird fucking scene where she wears the fucking Nixon mask.
I think it's just that she's like making fun of a politician she doesn't like.
Well, she definitely doesn't like that, and she's
Yeah.
always like she calls her parents fascists or her dad fascist.
Yeah. I mean
Typically,
there is definitely commentary about like the younger liberal, older conservative parent child dynamic, which again sort of played out, but again it's all about the execution for me.
it's like American Dad.
Yeah, American, no, not like that at all. It's like we never actually, at least to my memory, like hear what the parents' own political beliefs are, but we can sort of infer what that they're more like traditional, more Republican, conservative, simply by the way they present themselves and the and all that and sort of their reaction to their daughter. Like you could like play it off as them just not wanting her to get political at like areas where it's like inappropriate to be political, but you could also get it that it's like they just don't want to hear an opinion that's contrary to their own, you know? And that's a lot more interesting than if it was just I'm a big dumb Nixon supporter who donkeys or something. I don't know.
Ang Lee dunks on those Nixon conservatards.
Yeah, exactly.
Epic win. I love Bill Clinton.
I don't, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. I think Christina Ricci's little plot line was more interesting than Toby Maguire's plot line.
Well, she gets more screen time than him anyway, so it's
Yeah.
like
Toby
if
Maguire is mostly there to not get pussy and also make his Fantastic Four analogies, which is probably the reason why he doesn't get pussy.
yeah, probably. I mean, props off to Ang Lee for writing a nerd character who actually feels like someone I would meet in a college dorm and not just whatever the fuck most nerd characters in Hollywood are.
Yeah, his friend is also really awful. He just like fucks all the girls that he's into just because that like he's into them.
Yeah, he definitely felt like the most cartoonish character to me. Like, I don't know, is that a thing people do? I mean, I guess, but is that a thing that's like really common? Like, I'm going to like go after this person I had no interest in just because someone I know was interested in them. Like,
He's definitely violating the bro code.
yeah, it's not even that. It's just like a confusing thing to do. Like, why fucking waste your energy doing shit like that?
I
It's
don't
not
know,
like
but
you're starved for pussy. You could go you could go to a
they
park.
should not be friends.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. He felt like the most unrealistic character to me. Like I'm sure there are people
Yeah.
like that out there, but it's like it's such a like a confusing fucking behavior. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too autistic to get it.
Uh, maybe. Yeah. What'd you think of the part where Elijah Wood fucking died?
Honestly, I kind of laughed a little. And
Yeah.
it's not because it's a bad scene. I really like the way it's handled, but it also is like here's the thing. It's very artful in the fact that it's such a small moment, because
Yeah.
he's just
There's not like loud melodramatic music playing or
yeah.
anything.
Yeah, he's just having fun in the snow and it's just like a random accident that like kills him. And then he's it's not even that like one of the sparks touches him directly. It touches like the rail or whatever it was that he was leaning on, and we don't even see the electricity flowing through it. We just know it is because that's what happens when electricity touches metal.
Which is metal. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we
Kind of
just
ironic that the guy who was into science like died from that like little thingy. I don't know.
yeah. You know it it's just nice. It's like he's like, "Oh, look." And then the next moment he like no music, no like sound, no grunts. It's just he falls over. It's very underplayed, and that sort of highlights how like how indifferent the whole scene is. But it's sort of like a opposite of that. I also feel it's a little goofy just because he's just sitting there minding his own business and then he just suddenly dies. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I just found that
I
kind of
mean,
funny.
there is kind of like almost some build up to it because there's that scene where he's like jumping on the diving board, like, and you think he's gonna like fall off or something because he's being an idiot.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, and you're like, oh, he didn't die, but then he dies.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Um, yeah.
That was the closest the film came to subverting my expectations. I thought he was going to die by that. He dies another way instead.
Yeah. Speaking of Elijah Wood's character, there's that one scene, the really awkward scene where he's talking about molecules and he's talking about how when you like smell shit, like it's in you, which is like a really like in the context of the film, it like it's kind of like well when it happens, it's like really awkward and almost feels like cringe comedy, but it also I feel sums up the like how parents sort of pass on traits to children because when you're around certain behaviors, you adapt to them, like you quote unquote, I guess, smell them and then they're in you. I guess that, is sort of what it was trying to say.
I just sort of got the sense that like they were trying to characterize the kids as being like trying to find their own voice. Like, the Christine's character, she's got the whole thing with like exploring her sexuality and being against Nixon. Toby's character is trying to like lose his V card. Elijah's trying to be a pseudo intellectual and all that.
Yeah.
It's all about them like sort of finding their identity and sort of also thinking they're a lot smarter and more mature than they really are. It's like they can recognize their parents aren't as mature as the parents think they are, but they don't recognize that they're also, still kids themselves. So,
Um, there's definitely a lot of neglect going on from uh, between the parents and the children because the parents like aren't there for like when the kids are like playing around, like when the one kid fucking like plays with fireworks in the backyard.
oh yeah.
And yeah.
Like she's like she basically expects the siblings to figure that out, to the older brother to take care of that and not her herself, as she's like the
Yeah.
mother or whatever.
I think there might be some spousal neglect going on too because I don't know if this was intentional, but there's that one scene where Kevin Kline after he has sex with Sigourney Weaver, he's like talking about some like, yuppie bullshit, and she's not into it, but she does let him talk for a good while. Whereas when he's talking with his wife later on, he starts talking about some bullshit, but she just says, "Don't say anything." Like, and it's before like the topic of infidelity comes up. So I feel like probably he's cheating with Sigourney Weaver because at least in the beginning, she probably like lets him talk, whereas he feels like he can't like, you know, talk with his wife, have like a real conversation with her.
I also do think it's interesting that like Sigourney's probably in a similar position or something
Probably, but
where
also she's
where
definitely sexually not satisfied.
yeah, like I was gonna get at it like she's definitely just in it for the sex. She doesn't really I don't even think she wanted to be married. I felt like she just wanted to like to be primal, I guess, and marriage was the only socially acceptable way to get that. So that's the route she went. And when the husband stops providing, she goes with the other guy. And when the other guy tries to get emotional, she like shuts him down because that's not what she's looking for.
I mean, yeah, her husband has that really embarrassing scene where then he fucks Kevin Kline's wife, and he like comes in like 10 seconds.
They didn't even take their pants off though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did think it was weird how like everyone in the film is like everyone is just like a huge pervert because there's that weird like swingers party that was kind of weird.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, that's probably the part of the film where it kind of lost me a bit. It's like, that doesn't seem like something a bunch of suburban waspy white people would do.
No, probably not.
No,
I
it's like,
mean, maybe some circles, but they didn't really seem like the kind to get involved in that.
yeah, it's like it feels more like it's just like trying to up the tension or something, but again because like I mean they're already cheating on each other. Do they they're already at a party where they're with the people that they're cheating on each other with. So it's like is that really necessary?
I don't know about tension, but I think it was definitely trying to parallel the promiscuity between the children and the adults. But yeah, but definitely, yeah, there are like characters who sort of have sexual relationships that are only skin deep and don't really go any further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Christine was really fucking lucky that Elijah Wood died when he did, otherwise things would have gotten really awkward.
She's also lucky that um the parents didn't like file a restraining order or something.
Yeah,
Or well, actually no, I think Christina Ricci's mom is the one who found them. Like, yeah. There's some kind of like uncomfortable scenes with children in this film that I wasn't really aware of that they were
yeah.
going to go that far.
I I will admit I I don't think that like Ang Lee is like a creep or anything. I think he's like just trying to explore these ideas to the fullest extent that he can. But I feel like there's only so far you can go with that in like live action at least before it like you have to like consider like what the actors, especially the child actors, what you're asking of them. Like sometimes it's I don't know, I feel like there were ways they could have implied it without showing it on screen, you know?
Yeah. The actors are actually like older than they look though. Like the guy who plays the 12-year-old kid he was like 15, surprisingly, even though he looks like a fucking baby. Um,
I wouldn't
yeah,
I wouldn't have fucking known that,
uh,
especially considering
like
the fact that he's written as someone who like blows up little toy soldiers, but
it's definitely like his autism or something.
yeah.
And Christina Ricci, the actress, is like 17 when the film came out.
Wasn't she also like Wednesday Adams or something from like the Adams family?
I think she was in one of those films or both of those films.
Because it's like I didn't know the actress's name, but I recognize the face, and it's like that's fucking Wednesday Adams, fucking little baby. What's his name?
Uh, I feel like the final scene where Kevin Kline's character just like cries, I feel like was kind of a sort of sense of catharsis and also like a really sad scene. And it's like there's like characters in the film aren't like crying or anything for most of it, but there's like just this very sad build up. Like the characters are all like very emotionally distant from each other, and then like the final scene is sort of like a release of all the pent up sadness, not just for like Kevin Kline, but like for the whole film. I thought that was like a nice scene.
Yeah, it's definitely like interesting that like they're so repressed that the only possible way they could ever actually talk about their emotions or let out their emotions in like a healthy way is if someone close to them, was hurt or killed or something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just like keep it all fucking in there.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I've only seen one other Ang Lee film, which was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and that was a while ago. I think I was 15 or 16 when I saw that, but I didn't care for that very much. I liked this film a bit more. Um, I think Ang Lee is actually a director who, like, when you see an Ang Lee film, you're not like, oh, yeah, that's an Ang Lee film. Like, I don't think he's very idiosyncratic, but he just does, like, a lot of different things. He has a very varied filmography. Like, he has, a very like a Chinese wuxia, like action fantasy sort of film. He did a superhero movie that sucked ass. He did an action movie with Will Smith. He did Sense and Sensibility, which I don't really know much about that, but yeah, He did gay romance with two cowboys. He did gay romance with a Chinese and American guy. Um, he yeah, he did Life of Pi. That's a completely different film, and he did Lust Caution, which is this really erotic political thriller. He has a very varied filmography, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I was just like taken off guard by like Brokeback Mountain because it's like I don't know why that just like even knowing like the like how varied his filmography was, that didn't seem like something he'd make. I don't know. Like he just doesn't. Well, I don't fucking know the guy personally. I'm talking like I knew him in fucking college or whatever. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I always like attributed that to like some other director, I guess. Some like small guy who didn't have as much.
Zack Snyder.
Yeah. Zack Snyder made Brokeback Mountain. I mean, 300 is already basically gay porn, so.
Yeah, but yeah. Um, well, yeah, we're kind of getting off topic, but I don't really have too much more to say about this film, honestly. Do you have anything else to add?
Definitely, definitely a good film. Kind of would have benefited from focusing more on like the kids and their struggles and a little less on the adultery, or at the very least elaborating on it a little more. Because even if you can infer things, it's like, I don't know, I just felt like it's not something that the motivations aren't something you haven't seen in like any other like suburban social commentary before, you know. But it was definitely like a worth the watch. I really enjoyed the
I tend, go on.
I really enjoyed like the latter half of the movie, sort of like when it actually gets into the ice storm a bit more, because I thought some of the way it shoots like the icicles and whatnot, and the snow and the rain, it really does just emphasize just how miserable and trapped they all are in like that sort of environment. And also I hate snow, and anything that portrays snow as something that sucks ass is good.
Um, Yeah, when the train conductor said, "Now arriving in New Canaan, Connecticut," I thought
Connecticut.
that was I thought that was a mistake, and I thought he was supposed to say New Haven, or that New Canaan was like a fictional like place, but no, New Canaan is a real place. But speaking of places that suck, New Haven, Connecticut really sucks. But yeah,
Yeah.
um, I tend to have a soft spot for coming of age type films, but yeah, I wasn't like blown away by this film, but I did like it as well. Uh, it's actually in the Criterion collection, believe it or not. And have you ever heard of that book of 1001 movies you must see before you die?
Yes, this is in
Yeah,
it.
this is actually in there, or at least in one of the editions. And yeah, I think there's only been about like they come out with a new edition every year or something, but there's only ever been about 1250 unique ones, unique films. Uh, Also, Hanabi was in that book as well.
So I've
But
got two off the bucket list. Now just need to see the rest.
yeah, good luck. Yeah. Well, I enjoyed the ice storm. Um, if you were to ask me whether I would recommend it or not, I would say I do recommend it, and for me, I would give it a 7 out of 10. It was good.
Yeah, same for me. Probably just a 7 out of 10. You know,
Yeah,
still kind of prefer Life of Pi to it, but that's a film that appeals more to like my sensibilities anyway. So it's like
yeah,
comparing
understandable.
apples to oranges.
I tend to like sort of colder, darker dramas, so this appeals more to me, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably. I haven't seen Life of Pi.
So yeah, uh, if you can get your hands on this movie, um, is this streaming anywhere? Or
Um, it's on Showtime and it's on DirecTV. That's pretty much it. You can also rent it on YouTube, Amazon, Google Play, stuff like that, Apple TV.
yeah,
Also, you like there's a Criterion release, Criterion Blu-ray release, so that's always nice. Those always come with nice bonus features, and it's a very high quality release. So if you've seen the film and love it that much, then you can always get that.
yeah.
But yeah,
If you have the money to afford Criterion purchases, which
they're really overpriced.
yeah.
Wait for the Flash sale.
Yeah. There might also be like some non-Criterion releases, probably like a standard Blu-ray release or something.
So,
Yeah, there is. Okay.
Chris, do you have well, actually no. It's your turn to recommend something, I believe.
Oh yes. So I just decided, just because I've heard a lot of good things about the movie and haven't really gotten around to seeing it yet. Uh, Next episode, we're probably gonna watch Knives Out by Ryan Johnson, aka the man who destroyed Luke Skywalker in your childhood.
Actually, not probably. We will see it. And spoilers for Knives Out for next episode. Although, yeah, Ryan Johnson, he destroyed Star Wars. He ruined my childhood. It's the worst thing since I had to work in the coal mines for non-existent wages as a little 12-year-old boy.
He burned our crops, poisoned our water supply, and brought a plague onto our houses.
Okay, well, it will probably be fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, see you next time. Goodbye.
Peace.